Hello and welcome to another Nimble video tutorial. You know, when you put software out for the public to see, or when you design something like Nimble, you have to be able to have a thick skin and understand all the different viewpoints of developers that contact you. But the one thing that's amazing to me about Nimble is I don't babysit my code. When you design a piece of software that's stable and you've put in the work to test and build, constantly test and constantly build applications with it to make sure that it can do what you want it to do. You know, you don't have to babysit the code, and Nimble has become more of a fun hobby and just some of the relaxing time of my day. Not so much as a burden to develop code. And as I see the potential in this platform, it's even more fun to use. So without further ado, I'm going to continue slightly where I left off in the last demo. If you remember, I created a role-playing game interface where I built in a quick multi-touch joystick and button simulation. This is the project that I used to quickly throw that together. I looked briefly at the code. I showed the code briefly that showed how it tracked mouse over, it's called touch start, touch end, and touch move events, as well as the touch events for the buttons. What I noticed when I track these events is that they run a degree faster. They're running at like multimedia speed, video game speed, 60 frames per second when you use those events, as opposed to the normal click events that JavaScript and web browsers use. And that got me thinking that what if, instead of just putting an interface together like I did, what if these items were components? And more specifically, since Nimble kind of has a operating system static feel, what if you could plug and play joysticks into your app, as opposed to just building the joystick event the way I did? So the first thing I did was pull out this joystick and made it a component. Once I isolated the joystick itself, I put it on a dialog called joystick, and it has a move image, which is the background image, and the actual joystick is considered the direction object. I made this object work by including a default attribute or property called joy name, and you'll see why this is being designed this way in a moment. But the idea is, I want the user, once this joystick is created, I want him to be able to import or drag this component onto his project and give it a name, so that you can have multiple joysticks on any given app. That being said, I did make a slight improvement to the Nimble framework, and I included a user. It's a global user object. It sits on the global namespace, and it's strictly for user events or user objects that I am about to describe. I'm in short trying to simulate a plug-and-play joysticks for Nimble, and the user space is going to be the area that I use to hold any objects that use this type of technology or this approach to component design. So I made a user space, and I also included a new event trigger during the time your app is initializing, and I'll explain that later. But once I made buttons that have a group name and the joystick was created, I was pretty much done. Now I have a component that's a joystick that I can now use and include in a game, similar to head-to-head soccer or head-to-head football. And this joystick, when applied as a component and applied in your application, will get a joystick.joyName of joy2, and this one, of course, is joy1. So now, by dragging a component on, you can include two joysticks to build Android games that play head-to-head user experience. once the code that happens behind the scene is kept on the component itself. So once the component is loaded, the widget loaded event is fired, and it will read the joy name that you've assigned it within your app and push that object name to the user namespace. This is registering the area for this joystick to send events. All the other events about the joystick remains the same, and the updates when the joystick is moved around push to the joy namespace. This allows multiple joysticks to register and you to track the events depending on how many joysticks you want to add to any app. It allows you to include a function callback within the namespace of the joystick, and it will, you push your whatever your function or whatever your intercept for tracking joystick events in your app to this value, and it will call it and push the changes. So quickly, I was able to generate a one-time use joystick that you can now use forever, and it will track events and register within the namespace, the user namespace. I thought it was really cool how easily I was able to add this mod and get it to work as a plug-and-play joystick item for Nimble. When the joystick is in use, this is the JSON format. As you push new joysticks in and give it names, it will declare a space and it will record the events such as the direction, the distance, a change value, X and Y change value, the angle, the state, and of course the function callback. It's done all dynamically and all at the initialization of a Nimble web component. So I can show you one. This is an example of that joystick running. I have two. I don't have a way to watch the events live, but if I look at the user object, you'll see I have a button, an area for buttons, and both joysticks did register as they should. Just something I was playing around with when I started to think about what the limits and the potential was for NimbleJS. I don't ever recall seeing head-to-head Android games on the market yet, so I just thought that maybe this would be an avenue to explore. I won't spend too much more time on games. I know most people are business oriented on LinkedIn, so I just wanted to share this. After all, when you build applications or you build a framework like this, it's always good to test it with the focus on games because it ensures performance. I hope you guys like this one. I was really impressed with how this worked out. Thank you for watching.